Welcome back. You're watching One on One. We're speaking with gold medalist Olympic skater Joey Cheek. Now, you trained really hard. You were very, very dedicated. I read about some of the stuff you went through, and you trained till you vomited. You described yourself as a puker. That can't have been much fun.
Yeah, I was known for that. We have a workout called tempos, which it sounds not as bad. It sounds maybe like dancing or something, but it's a maximal race effort, and you do them over and over again. And I was just chronic. In my younger years especially, I did longer races, and 1,500 meters, 3,000 meters. I would do these things, and I just blast right out of the gates. And as your lactic acid builds up in your body, it all dumps into your stomach, and then has to get out somewhere.
So it was quite physiological. There was no way around it.
Exactly. And it was agony. I just remember laying in bed the night before, knowing that I was going to wake up and knowing I was going to be, in sheer agony on the side of the rink on my hands and knees the next morning. So it made for a couple sleepless nights every week.
Now, when it comes to defining moments, I guess I would naturally say that one of your biggest defining moments must be getting the gold medal in the Olympics. Was there more? Was that pretty much the biggest one for you?
I would have to say that by the time I won the gold medal, I think this is a very public thing, that now the world sees me as this gold medalist, and so it changes my ability to reach out, and it changes the way people perceive me. But for me, I think the biggest moment was winning a bronze medal in 2002. It was a weird thing. That whole year leading into that Olympics was just miserable. I beat myself to a pulp every day, because if I wasn't skating as well as I thought I should, then I was worthless. And if I had one good time, then it was great. So it was just manic and depressive and up and down. And I just had so many nights where I couldn't sleep, and I was just I was really putting a lot of pressure on myself. I made it through the year barely, and we went through one sports psychologist and another, and daily calls back home because I was just not handling it well. I got to the Olympics and stepped to the line and managed to skate just an outstanding race, one of the best races I'd ever skated. I think in spite of myself. It wasn't because I think I figured out how to handle this pressure. I crossed the line and won my first Olympic medal, bronze medal. And that was, in many ways, it was like everything changed for me, because now, no matter what, I was an Olympic medalist. I felt I never had to prove another thing as long as I lived. And so that pressure was off. But I also realized another thing is that as great a victory and something I'd wanted so much since I was a little kid, I got it, and I was like, well, this is it. This is all. This is what I was putting myself through agony for. And I made an important decision around that time. If I was going to keep skating, I'd do it because I loved it, not because I wanted to win medals. And I also realized another point. As soon as you win medals, everyone wants to talk to you, and everyone wants to be your friend. And it lasts about a week. And so after that week was done, and then the cameras aren't at your door and no one's calling you anymore, and you're like, oh well, that was short-lived as well. So that was when really the seed was planted and began germinating, in this idea that every once in a while the stars align and you have a brief second where you can make some sort of impact, and you need to be prepared for that, because if it comes again, you want to be able to maximize your effectiveness.
Now, I know that you were elected to carry the U.S. flag at the Olympic closing ceremonies, and which I guess is a show of faith from your teammates in what they thought of you.
I tell people at those games, I won that gold medal pretty early, 3 or 4 days into the Olympics. And I think every day after that would have been the best day of my life if you just took that one day. And so I had a string of best days of my life. And I found out I was nominated and unanimously chosen by the team captains of all the other U.S. sports to carry the flag. So it's this great thing, but at the time I didn't really appreciate it. And it wasn't until later when I look back and I said, man, these guys decided of all the athletes that represented the U.S., they wanted me to carry the flag. And so it was one of those honors that has only grown in my mind.
Interestingly enough, at that closing ceremony, the renowned sports commentator Bob Costas noted that you'd been turned down, or you hadn't been able to get your application into Harvard Business School, and then he lobbied for you to try to get in.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be a double-edged sword for you, didn't it?
It did. Well, yeah, and so at the closing ceremonies in front of 60 million U.S. viewers, and I'd been denied. I was full out denied. I won't sugarcoat it. They said, no, we're not taking you. You've been out of school 10 years. If you take some classes, try again. Maybe we'll let you in then. And Costas said, Harvard, let this guy in. Which of course, now Harvard's never going to let you in because Bob Costas says so. And if they did, and I go to school, then everybody's going to say, well, look, this idiot got in because of Bob Costas. So I've teased him about it in the time since I've seen him. But that certainly didn't help my cause. And it ended up working out. I got accepted to many other schools, and I chose Princeton. And and they're the #1 undergraduate school. So it looks like maybe they did me a favor.
Good for you. Now, I know in terms of mentors, you described your coach, one of your coaches at least, Finn Halvorsen,
Yeah.
the Norwegian coach, as one of the biggest influences and someone who changed your life.
Yeah.
In what way?
Finn, in addition to great speed skating information, which he gave me just reams of, and amazing technical things, I think Finn was one of the first people to teach me that when you're focusing on something and you want to see something happen, that you can't let all of the outside noise and the million different distractions that go on around you deflect you from the goal that you're trying to attain. You can correct your course, but you have to stay within yourself and find that compass, whatever it is, that points you a direction. Especially the work that I've started doing since then. You start working on these very big, complex issues. It's easy to get distracted, and it's easy for people to say, you don't know what you're talking about, or, oh yes, you're doing great things, continue, you're wonderful. It's easy to get distracted and lose focus of this sort of moral compass and this sort of directional sort of roadmap that you're running through. And I think that his advice and his ways of teaching me to focus on the things that I can control and forget everything else absolutely will be with me for the rest of my life. And
I gather it was the wonderful Johan Olav Koss who persuaded you to go from inline to speed skating.
Yeah, sort of indirectly. Yeah. He, I had at that time, of course, had no idea who he was. I didn't know him personally. Of course, I knew who he was. When I was about 15 years old, laying on my living room floor in sunny North Carolina in February. It's probably 70 degrees outside. I couldn't convert that Celsius for the viewers overseas, but watching the Winter Olympics, and I see this giant Norwegian win 3 gold medals and just dominate the sport in his home country, and then donate all his money to start this organization that became Right to Play. And at the time, all I wanted to do was win medals. I thought the other stuff was pretty cool, but I never dreamt that I would one day be doing similar things. And a few years after I'd started making teams, I met Johan, and it's sort of like my eyes are as big as dinner plates meeting this guy, and ultimately donated to Right to Play. And now I consider him a very close mentor and someone who I regularly speak with as I'm trying to navigate, much choppier waters as we're doing humanitarian work.
Who else do you consider mentors in your life?
Well, of course, let's see. Johan is a great mentor. There is an American who works for a group called the Enough Project, John Prendergast. He's done a number of things. He worked in the Clinton administration on African issues, and now he runs a group called the Enough Project, which aims to fight genocides and crimes against humanity all over the place. I think he has been someone who I look to very regularly, just as a way to balance, all of these different things and continue to fight for what's important.
How much has that activism, your work for Team Darfur and Right to Play, taken over your life now then?
I'm in school full time during the fall and winter, and so during those times it's very difficult to manage both. When I'm not in school, this is pretty much all I do. I do a few corporate speaking gigs as well because I still got to pay the bills. But this is I think absolutely one of the major efforts of my life, and
is it what gives you that sense of accomplishment, sense of satisfaction that you're doing something then?
I get a great sense of satisfaction knowing that I'm working on something that's important, and knowing that there are absolutely hundreds of thousands of people who are in dire need in this region, and whom, if there weren't people standing up for them, they would be wiped out. And so I think the mission is noble. Sometimes the facts on the ground have a way of grinding you down. However, those people deserve protection. They deserve protection just as much as anywhere else in the world, and I certainly agree that other places do as well. But this is the thing that I've chosen to work on, and it gives me a great feeling of fulfillment every morning to know that I'm doing something that is worthwhile. Do
you ever see yourself, because you're very much involved with this activism as well, and I know you're studying as well, but do you ever see yourself taking on a career in politics?
It's certainly possible. Now, I know there's a lot of people, especially in the U.S., who think of politics as just a filthy word. The way I've grown to see things, especially as I begin to work more and more within the international community on the Darfur issue, is that a lot of people have very different opinions, and there's a lot of different interests. And being political, again, it's become synonymous with being two-faced or shady or being disingenuous. But there are many things in which they're so gray, you don't know which area is the right one. And in some cases it's black and white, but in some areas it's gray. And you have to find a trajectory in which you can draw in enough people to make something good happen. And that art, I think, is a worthwhile skill. And if I'm involved in something along those lines, I think that'd be okay. The one thing I do not want to do, though, is I'm not interested in politics for politics' sake. I don't get any kind of joy out of the scheming of it. I don't like any of the scheming. But if you're able to accomplish something great, I think it's a worthwhile pursuit.
Any long-term goals you've set yourself?
Right now, obviously, getting through school in one piece is probably a major one. I actually would like to go into the business community as well. I think there's things I have to offer that as well. But when I look back on my life, hopefully I will have maybe like one segment, right? So I've got like the athletic segment, maybe the business segment, maybe the education segment. Certainly the work for humanitarian stuff as well. So who knows? Maybe I can fill in all the pieces of this puzzle.
Joey Cheek, I wish you luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.